Hi everyone, welcome back to the second day of the Creative Leaders Festival 2021. And we're here today to discuss skills with some great speakers on our panel. In a second, we'll go around and introduce everybody. There is a chat option, so if people do want to have questions and throw comments into the chat, we'll try our best to pick those up throughout the session as well. 10:10, and it'll be a fast-paced conversation where we get the opportunity to discuss things that are happening currently, things that have changed over the last 12 to 18 months, and what the future's looking like. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Zoe Wallace and I'm the director at Agent Academy. Agent Academy delivers training and development for young people across the Northwest who want to start careers in digital, creative and tech. And we work with hundreds of businesses across the region really to support an industry-led skills development of these young people to help them get into jobs. And I am joined today by a great panel. So I'm going to hand over to Lindsey, who'll do her intro and then we'll go around. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Good morning, everyone. My name's Lindsey. I'm the founder and chair of Tangerine Communications, which is a digital marketing communications consultancy in Manchester. We have clients all over the world and we have about 87 people in the team. I also am founder and chair of the Juice Academy, which is a not-for-profit digital marketing apprenticeship program. Again, also in Manchester, but servicing employers and apprentices across the country. I'm also skills chair for Northwest Business Leadership Team. I'm vice chair of a couple of charities, a non-exec director of a few things like North Coders, Flock, and the Rugby Football League. So an all-round nosy Parker, basically.
I love it.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Mark Stowe. I'm the Director of Business Engagement, Employability and Careers from Leeds Beckett University. So I head up a central department really that looks at bringing the external world in and supporting our students and graduates to transition into employment, both throughout the studies and once they've completed the studies with us as well, looking at the graduate destination. So we work across all of our schools at Leeds Beckett University. We've got about 10 schools at the moment covering a diverse range of subject disciplines. So looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, hi, I'm Beth Hewitt and I'm from University of Salford. I'm the creative director based at Media City on our campus there. And my main I guess one of the most sort of key parts in terms of this discussion is linking with industry into the curriculum, setting up those relationships and partnerships so that students and graduates alike have those stepping off stones, get that experience, get the networking, understanding what industry wants, and really putting industry centre frame in all of our programmes and courses, outside and inside those programmes.
That's great. And I think that's really a great place to start because you've talked about, from a university perspective, working with industry there. What have been the biggest challenges relating to that over the last 12 months, would you say? And how's that kind of gone for you? Is there anything you've learned?
Shall I start with that one?
Yes, please.
I mean, I think the last 12 months have been trying for everyone really and testing for everyone. But actually, we've really worked hard to maintain those links, and I think it's a sort of crossroads. I think for industry it's been difficult working with young people coming out because they've actually had to support people who are already in industry. So I think during this pandemic time it has been particularly difficult for industry as well. But overall I would say we have really strong relationships with industry, and for me the way forward is to build up that trust, build up those links so that industry understand each different university, each different college, they understand the skills that those students have. And I do think, every place is different and every place offers something different for students and for industry. So there's sort of, room to share all those partnerships, and I'm very much about advocating collaboration. One of the key things we've done with industry is when we start something new, and we begin to write new courses, we have industry right at the heart of them. So even before we've kind of almost finished writing a title, we bring in industry to make sure that we're on the right track, to look at what we're, deciding to deliver. And you basically get that collaborative approach. And then that means that industry have a sense of sort of ownership, if you like, a buy-in to those things, and a buy-in to the students as well, so they get to understand it a lot more. So yeah, this year's been difficult, but I think it's also been amazing, because actually things like this online, the reach is so good, and I've been to so many more things in a way than I did in the year before, and that actually is extended to students. Students have been able to access industry. The networking's always going to be tricky, but there's ways and means around that as well. And I think, I think there's a lot of learning over the last year, and we can really make sure that we're inclusive, we're diverse, we're strong on that. And that's something that we're really committed to at Salford as well.
I would agree with that. I think the last year, whilst it's been challenging, it's allowed us to hit the reset button to some extent. So we've changed a lot of the ways in which we deliver things, and actually it's extended our reach in terms of our connectivity with businesses, because perhaps organisations that perhaps wouldn't engage with certain universities because of distance or because of priorities are now more willing and open to do it, because it's they can do it online. They can have an hour with our students rather than having to travel for a day to engage. So it's been much more efficient in terms of our business engagement opportunities. I think the key for us has been, trying to deliver the message to organisations that even though you may not have opportunities for students or graduates at that time, it's so important to maintain a presence on campus, so that when those opportunities become available, that you're visible, your brand is known to our students and graduates, and that they recognise you as an organisation and the opportunities that you present as well. So I'd agree with Beth, it's been a challenging year in some regards, but a real opportunity in another respect as well.
It's interesting. Yeah. Sandy, sorry, I was just going to bring you into that from your view across all of these different companies operating. How would you say it's?
Yeah, I agree with the other two speakers. It's extraordinary in what obviously being one of the world's worst ever crises. We've also seen a lot of opportunity. We've been talking for years in the Juice Academy about whether we could extend our reach, because we were classroom based, and we couldn't figure out a way to do it whilst keeping the quality of teaching. And a week into the pandemic, we were online, everybody was working, and it was absolutely fine. And it just shows that when you have to do things, you find a way to make them work. And now all of a sudden we've got apprentices in London, Newcastle, Birmingham, whereas before we were very much Northwest. So, out of a crisis comes an opportunity. And when I had a day job, it was crisis management. So I always used to say every crisis has an opportunity. And then obviously it's been a tough year. And at the beginning, I have to be honest with you and say we really were worried. Obviously, the applications from young people went through the roof. Lots of graduate job offers rescinded, lots of people being made redundant, last in, first out, that kind of thing. So we were panicking, and we sent out the bat signal to all of our contacts and said, guys, come on, we need to step up here. These kids are going to need a lot more jobs. And I tell you what, the employers have been absolutely magnificent. We've actually got more apprentices on programme than we've ever had. We have been quite lucky in that what we offer is one apprenticeship and one apprenticeship only, which is a junior content producer apprenticeship. And that's what all brands have needed this year, the ability to talk powerfully to their customers when they can't actually access their retail outlets, their hospitality venues. So we've actually been quite lucky in the apprenticeship that we operate. And it's been really interesting to see the apprentices and the employers adapt to the online environment as quickly as they have, as Beth said. So I'm quite proud of humanity. In a way, it's been quite extraordinary year.
Interesting, isn't it? I suppose I started that the question really there about what's the challenge, and the same for us. I suppose there was we felt the challenge at the beginning, and then in retrospect, when we all reflect, we go, oh, there was lots of opportunities that came out of that. And for us, we launched an e-learning platform called Leap to like midway through lockdown, and the energy that went into that I don't think have been the same energy and focus had we been doing that regular, getting on with what we'd always been doing. So it's been amazing. We can look back and feel that way. And I suppose, it was a challenge that we seem to have really handled well in the skills world. So Sandy, you've just touched on some of the things that have been, obviously the remote delivery has been the different thing. Is there anything else, Sandy, that you feel you've done differently during lockdown? And I must just say, before you do say that, Ruth has just joined us, Ruth from UCLan. So we'll go to her in a sec to do her intros once you've started that next element, Sandy. Thank you.
Yeah, basically the massive thing for us has been the remote working of the apprentices as well. Bringing the apprentices on board into their employers remotely. I mean, it's challenging for all employers, but when you've got members of staff that have potentially never even worked in an office, and you're having to onboard them remotely, that's been challenging. But again, we've seen employers, oh bless her, she's gone again, hasn't she? We've seen employers and apprentices adapt really well to it. What was interesting is that the apprentices that are halfway through the programme, so they'd had the classroom environment and then they had to go online, they struggled a little bit early on, whereas the ones that started the programme from fresh have actually gone really well. And you'd think they'd struggle more because they've never been in the office, they've never technically met their colleagues, but they've adapted really well. And we've learned loads about onboarding people remotely, engaging people remotely, making sure that the culture of the businesses that they're working in is still getting across to them in different ways. We've been doing a lot of work to support the employers in that, and they've been helping us in return with that as well. So it's been a year of mutual learning for everyone.
Can I just add into that? Because I think what's interesting is, and Sandy, you might, and Mark, one of the things that I've been sort of thinking about is how the learning has been amazing, and the journey that people within FE and colleges and universities have been through, all schools really, it is really it would never have happened ever in terms of our understanding of remote learning, of developing the technologies to deliver online, and all those sort of things. And I think one of the questions we're now at, as we're sort of slowly moving towards a kind of hybrid or a different type of way, is looking at it not as though do you want to get out of this? Because I think the answer is yes. Everybody wants to get out of the pandemic. So it's really important to go, right, imagine the pandemic isn't there. How do you want to work? Because I think if you ask the question, how do you want to work? Everybody just says, as we used to be, because it's been so horrendous. And yeah, as Sandy said, so many things have been good things, so many positives in terms of inclusion and big area around technologies and access to technologies, and people working in different environments, maybe not having those sort of spaces at home where they can. So all those things are issues that we need to kind of work through. But I think we need to then look beyond how we sort of crisis manage things into actually what could the world be for young people learning, for industry understanding, the next generation, for the next generation understanding the skills that are required. So it's just something I'm kind of always conscious of when I'm talking about it. I don't know whether Mark is the same or.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting point. I mean, I reflect on it often, actually, and think about it in terms of it'd be good to retain what we've gained, but get back what we've lost. And there's a fine balance, isn't there? It's and I think for thinking about graduates and our students, it's really hard for them, to go to a new organization and work in this way. But the other things that it does present, which I think is a great thing when we think about inclusion and diversity, is the whole social mobility agenda. One of the key challenges we've got for graduates has been around the mobility of graduates in the labour market and the challenges that poses for them. Some graduates who perhaps are from lower socioeconomic backgrounds tend to stay and cluster where they were brought up. But this presents opportunities for them to work for organisations far afield, in locations that they might not, in the normal world, have the confidence or have that kind of social capital to go along and take those opportunities. So it does present opportunities, but I think there's a fine balance. I mean, one of the things that we've been really consciously trying to deliver as a career service within the university, and it links back to your point, Sandy, is how can we support organisations to onboard our graduates in the current climate? So we've introduced a new initiative which we've called our Graduate Skills Booster Programme, which is about supporting our graduates to transition into the workplace in the current climate. Because I think to some extent, there's an opportunity that they may feel quite isolated in the current climate and find it even more challenging. So we're doing a lot to try and address some of those challenges within our team.
I think. Oh, go on. Sorry. Yeah. I was just about. Oh, this is the worst thing about this, isn't it? I was just about to say that I think what I hope we don't do, and Beth touched on it, is do that human thing of having very short memories when we do go back to normal, and forgetting all the good things that have come out of this. The fact that we don't have to travel. Obviously, the green benefits of that to the environment, the time savings of bringing a cluster of people from, with the RFL, we've got people in London, we've got people in Manchester, we've got people over the country, and we can very quickly bring together those people to have a meeting. We don't have to travel right across the country and stay in a hotel. And same with Tangerine, so I think what will happen is dare I use the word, blended version of where we are now versus where we were. The only thing I disagreed, Beth, with you saying is I think everybody's saying they want to get back to normal. A lot of my colleagues and apprentices and people are saying they don't want to get back to normal. They want to carry on having that flexibility of working from home, of coming to the office. They want to get back to that normal of having the ability to work alongside people brainstorming in a room, because that's one of the things that creative people miss the most, I think. That bouncing on a desk, that kind of thing. But
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
So,
isn't it? You said it, Beth. Just being in crisis mode doesn't mean that we can't learn from it. And I think evaluation. I think we're doing a lot of evaluation and constantly looking at what's worked there and what hasn't, and then embedding that learning in. So our programs at the moment, are blended, and we bring people together, but they work at home, and that's going to prepare this young talent for the working world, which is definitely they're not going into the world as it was before. So I think the blended approach and being flexible with that and looking at doing things because it's the best thing to do, not because it's the thing that we've always done, definitely is something that will be taken away from this.
To add to that, Zoe, I think it's really important to say, and I'm sure it's the same at Leeds, that wherever we can with practice-based programs, we've brought students in. So that is something that, within our media programs, within our VFX and edit, all those sort of programs where it is about collaboration, it is about hands-on practice with technology, with cameras, with lighting, with whatever it is we're talking about. Where we can, that's been involved, and students don't want to lose that. They really, really don't want to lose that, and they really value that. And that's something we've strived very much to do at Salford, to give as much face-to-face contact with obviously within the rules and regulations of the situation. But I do think, you're right, it's that very much that blended, how can we do it, and what's going to support young people and industry and the kind of staff in those institutions the best, really.
I think part of a university life, and part of we try and do it at the Juice Academy as well, is the alumni. Part of the enjoyment and the benefit of going through a training program is the people you meet on it, and they become friends for life, and then a network as well. And that is my one worry about this remote working, is they won't get that as much. So we've tried to kind of factor that in where we can, like you say, bringing them in when we can. That's the one thing that I think is missing at the moment. That whole ability to build that brilliant network and alumni and friend circle that being in a training program gives you.
Looking towards the future as well, Sandy, are you feeling that from a government point of view, what do you think needs to happen next for the next 2 years, maybe looking towards the future? What can government be doing, and also big business, to support what happens next? Have you got any idea?
Oh yes, how long have you got? We put together, as you know, Zoe, an apprenticeship report which we actually presented to government. Flipping heck, feels like about 10 years ago now. It was actually the beginning of last year, and we've updated it several times, had several discussions with Treasury, and it's been an interesting year. One thing that government does need to do is it needs to listen to employers. We're the people that know what we need from our skills of the future, from our talent for the future. So it needs to listen better to employers. On the apprenticeship front, what it definitely needs to do is loosen up its rules around the apprenticeship levy, and the ability to spend that more flexibly. That's one of our kind of major asks that we've been talking to the government about for a long time. And then just kind of work with us to figure it all out, because my biggest worry is what happens when the furlough stops. We're going to have a very, very nasty rock that's going to be overturned, and we're all going to have to deal with what's underneath it, because at the moment it's very, very hidden by furlough. And I do worry for apprentices that the minute that is gone, that they're going to be very much exposed.
Yeah, I feel the same, especially in terms of being in that horrible situation where you're delivering a solution, I suppose, that works, and it works, but we're in this situation which is the aftermath, and looking towards the end of furlough and things, where you think, unfortunately, more people than ever, and you mentioned it before, Sandy, that more people than ever need employment kind of skills, opportunities, and I feel that the pressure on organisations to deliver will be big. And in a way, for us, that's it's brilliant because we can deliver into that, but it's scary because we don't really want to be in the situation as where people are struggling to gain jobs and stuff. And I think any support for us to be able to be versatile as well in that approach. I think we've been delivering some pilot boot camps, which have been really interesting and worked really well, and have been picking up that layer of people who are, at risk of redundancy or just been made unemployed and stuff. And I think, that was something that was pretty new for us. But what we've learned is that when we've got the opportunity to plug in, we can do that, and it's just being able to have the opportunity to fill those gaps, I suppose. And I think
that's right.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to briefly say, I think that's right. And I think what I've noticed is employers are getting that, and they are stepping up. There's never been a more important time to support young people, work with universities, work with colleges, and, take apprentices, because we're going to have massive. We were just starting to get out of the digital skills gap before this all started, and I fear that it's going to kind of be back if we're not careful, and we'll all be whinging about it again in 3 years' time. So we all need to step up to the plate right now.
Do you want to come in there? Yeah,
I was just going to say, I agree completely with what's already been said, but I think one of the challenges from a higher education perspective, and is the current policy agendas of the government in higher education, which is very much focused on an economically driven interpretation as to the value that university education can bring to the economy. And the challenges there, I think, is a binary view as to the talent that graduates have and can bring to organisations. And what I mean by that is there's a perception and ongoing policy assumption that if you study subject X, it only fits in box X in the labour market. And I think what we've got to do is try and shake that that perception a little bit, and start to promote the various talents and the interdisciplinary progression that graduates can bring to the economy. So creative graduates working in industry, they don't have to just work within a particular sector. They can bring value across multiple industries. The non-linear career pathways, which I think at the moment, policy agendas that the government are driving forward with in higher education, which fundamentally, to a great extent, runs the risk of significantly reducing our creative programs within the sector. That needs to change, because the value and the talent that we've got within universities across all of our disciplines is much more than can be interpreted through that kind of linear approach to career progression.
Yeah, I fully back that. I don't think there's anything kind of more to add to it apart from the kind of need to keep those the kind of creative technologies and the creative programs kind of really high on the agenda, and focus on that. And I liked what you said about knowing that those programs and those students are supporting a multiple range of industries. It's vast, and to lose that, and they are under threat at the moment. And I think we have to really shout about their worth and their value to young people and to students and to the government, obviously.
I think also, Mark, you mentioned something before about bringing that local, I know we do it in Liverpool and in Manchester as well, bringing that local graduate talent through, and early talent is brilliant for making sure that we are reaching out and creating diverse workforces and being inclusive. One of the things that we are focused on at Agent Academy is making sure that every one of our cohorts are coming through and have got a real representation, so that we're bringing that representation through into industry. And with undergraduates as well, I think, especially we worked with the University of Liverpool, and especially those commuter students, those people that are living locally, commuting into university, and maybe don't have the same graduate employment outcomes as their peers who've lived away. That's also a really, important resource for industry. So has anybody got any ideas or, any kinds of practical things that you're doing in terms of diversity and inclusion and nurturing that talent as it comes? Beth?
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously, incredibly committed to working with the local talent and making sure that, the young people in our region have those opportunities, have those experiences. We're connecting out to those people and those different colleges. Absolutely key to the work that we're doing. We've just launched a scholarship for diversity and inclusion, again working with industry to make sure that industry are involved with that and can actually understand that talent pipeline. And for me, what's so important is about industry being engaged with young people from an early age, not just when they're in higher education. And it's that transition from, school to college and then out at the other side into employment. And that line, that trajectory for me is really, really important. And that will enable, a far more inclusive workforce, I think, because it's actually taking industry out to people instead of people having to find industry. Industry also needs to go out as well as HE. It's a very collaborative journey, and it takes real kind of commitment, I think, from both sides. But it's been really amazing, the responses we've had from both colleges and from industry in terms of pushing that agenda. And I think, there's never been a greater time for collaboration between HE across the region, rather than pitted against each other. Actually, it's collaborations. It's collaborations with FE colleges, it's collaborations with industry, and it's sharing that knowledge, sharing the knowledge that all of us have. I have knowledge, Sandy has knowledge, you have it, Mark has it, everybody has it, and not being afraid to share that knowledge to develop a workforce that is correct, really, and right, and long overdue.
Beth, it's so it's so timely, isn't it, that you're talking about this collaboration, because just this morning it's been announced, I think minutes ago, that 14 colleges and universities across Greater Manchester are going to be doing just that and coming together to collaborate, I suppose, for that greater good. And you know, definitely. Why wouldn't that happen? I think it's so important. It's brilliant to see, because it doesn't happen everywhere. So, you know, well done, Greater Manchester, for making that move and coming together as a collaborative approach to this. Definitely important and needed. Sandy?
Yeah, I was just about, we're starting to flash and run out of time, I think. I was just about to say that diversity is all about different types of people within the workforce. And one of the other advantages that this way of working does is it enables disabled people to get more into the workforce, because it completely and utterly levels them up with us, because they can have these meetings exactly the same as we can. And we've been doing a lot of work in the academy to try and get more people, wheelchair users, people with hearing impairment. There's no reason why they can't be brilliant digital marketers just the same. So we've been doing a lot of work with different charities to try and do more of that. So that's kind of a different type of diversity as well for the workforce.
Yeah, and just to come in on the back of that, we've been doing quite a bit at Leeds Beckett in terms of looking at our distinct student characteristics, the challenges that they may perceive that they face, or real challenges that they may have, and developing some careers education programs to try and help them overcome them, but also to help expose them to the breadth of opportunities that there are available. And part of that, as Beth was saying, some of that is, you know, is bursary schemes to help students to access placement opportunities where they might not have been able to in the past. But we've also got bursary schemes, again, to help generate opportunities in the local area, working with small to medium-sized businesses to generate graduate internship opportunities, which are available for those graduates that you were saying, Zoe, you know, that remain local and stay local throughout their studies.
You know, we are nearing to the last 5 minutes or so of this discussion. So I think to finish off, what we'll do is we'll just go around and we'll do one thing, and we'll start with Sandy. But really, what is that one thing, I suppose, that the people, you know, tuning in today and listening to this discussion can do to support the future creative leaders in our regions flourish and introduce them to industry? What is the thing that needs to happen, Sandy?
I just think, as I said earlier, that we need to realise that there's never been a more important time to keep our foot on the gas with this subject, because if we don't, and if we take it off, we're going to find in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time we're going to have another skills gap, and none of us need or want that in our businesses.
Have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I would say, you know, keep collaborating, industry and educators, you know, across the range from, you know, aged 5 onwards, really. But, you know, definitely through FE and universities, keep coming to us, and we'll keep going out to industry, because that's absolutely key that we do that for the next generation of leaders.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with what Beth said there. You know, keep collaborating. I think keeping a presence on campus where universities are involved, but also thinking more about the diversity piece. You know, think about agility, resilience, and how we can promote non-linear career pathways and capitalise on the huge range of talent and skills that we have within our education institutions that can add value across a range of different sectors.
Thank you, Mark. I think, you know, those points are really important as well. It's very clear from this conversation that the energy, even just, you know, within these organisations, and I know this is reflected across skills organisations across all of our regions, you know, the energy and the hard work and the commitment to the future and to developing those creative leaders of the future is really there. So I think the take-home message for me is get in touch with us and collaborate with us, and, you know, we will always be open to doing that and to working together to make a difference, I suppose. So it's been a really fast and enjoyable discussion. Thank you so much to everybody for all of your contributions. If there's anything in the chat that we haven't picked up, I did have a look and I don't think there was anything really coming through, but if there is, we'll definitely work with the team, the Creative Leaders Festival team and the Growth Company to pick that up later. And yeah, thanks very much.